Greetings. I'm Tanisha Acharya. I warmly welcome all of you on behalf of Tillotoma Foundation. Tillotoma Foundation is a global think tank working in the areas of international relations, area studies, financial, environmental, scientific, strategic, and defense policy. We have worked extensively on Central Asia. We are going to have the presentation of a very interesting working paper titled The New Great Power Competition in Central Asia: Opportunities and Challenges for the Gulf by Dr. Mher Sahakyan. The working paper was published in May 2021 by the Anwar Gargash Diplomatic Academy. Dr. Mher Sahakyan is the director of China Eurasia Council for Political and Strategic Research, Armenia. He is an assistant professor at the Russian Armenian University and lecturer at the Yerevan State University and National Academy of Sciences of Armenia. In fact, our organization has a deep focus on both Central Asia and the Gulf. And therefore, I think we will have a very interesting presentation that brings together these two fascinating Asian regions. Feel free to send in your questions for the speaker. We also have among us Dr. Meena Singh Roy, Head, West and Central Asia Center, Tillotoma Foundation, and Dr. Farkhad Tolipov, Visiting Senior Fellow, Central Asian Studies, Tillotoma Foundation. Let me now request Dr. Mher Sahakyan to begin his presentation. Dr. Sahakyan.
Thank you, dear colleagues. At first, I want to thank. Can you hear me? At first, I want to thank Tillotoma Foundation for organizing this event and thank you for the opportunity to testify today about the new great power competition in Central Asia. I'm also very thankful to Emirates Diplomatic Academy for publishing this working paper. And special thanks go to Dr. Janardhan Narayanappa for his advice and important suggestions. I will ask to switch on my PowerPoint presentation and I will start my speech. Thank you, please the second slide. Thanks. After the collapse of the Soviet Union and the independence of Central Asian states, different regional and non-regional powers such as Russia, China, the United States, the European Union, Turkey, Iran, India, and Gulf Cooperation Council countries sought to influence the region's affairs, triggering a modern Great Game. The renewed and expanding interest towards Central Asia is rooted in its vast resources of oil, gas, water, gold, and other precious commodities. Moreover, it is geographically located at an important strategic crossroads that connects Europe with Asia. These factors encouraged our countries to develop integration, transportation, and economic initiatives, thus acquiring a Eurasian flavor. Among them, the Russian-led Eurasian Economic Union, China's Silk Road Economic Belt, the EU's Traseka, the US New Silk Road Project, India, Russia, Iran-led International North-South Transport Corridor, etc. Please, the next slide. Let's speak about Russia and Central Asia. Even after the collapse of the Soviet Union, which was the main architect of the Central Asian countries, Russian decision makers still consider Central Asia as Moscow's sphere of influence. Russia has invested about 20 billion in this region. In recent years, Russia has been exerting influence in the region for two channels. The first, the Collective Security Treaty Organization, for which Russia strengthens its military, political, security cooperation with Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. The second is Eurasian Economic Union, where Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan are members, with Uzbekistan as an observer, all focusing on economic and political collaboration. Russia tries not to let other countries to open military bases in Central Asia without coordinating with it. As a result, Russia was unhappy when the United States opened its military bases in Kyrgyzstan, viewing it as a threatening Russia's security and ensuring its shutdown. In sum, Russia remains the main foreign military power in the region, as Moscow's well-developed economic, political, and military relations with Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan allowed the continuation of its military bases in Central Asia. The next one, within the framework of the Eurasian Economic Union, Russia aims to strengthen its economic and political engagement with Central Asia. It is worth mentioning that the Eurasian Economic Union membership provides Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan access to Russian, Belarusian, and Armenian markets. There are also potential benefits for other agreements signed by the Eurasian Economic Union with other states. To integrate into the Eurasian Economic Union, Russia also provides with significant financial and technical assistance, totaling about 200 million to the Kyrgyz economy, and Moscow established also the Russian Kyrgyz Development Fund with a capital of 500 million USD. The Eurasian Economic Union membership also has a political context. It means that Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan chose the Russian camp, and along with Belarus and Armenia, they form a separate alliance, thereby contributing to another dynamic of multipolar world order. Uzbekistan is also strengthening its collaboration with the Eurasian Economic Union. As a result, it obtained observer status in the last year. In sum, further expansion of the Eurasian Economic Union will strengthen Russia's position in Central Asia. This will enhance its control over strategically important roads that connect Asia and Europe. Next slide, please. Let's speak also about Russian soft power diplomacy in the region. Language plays an important role in promoting Russia-Central Asia ties, as most of the population in the region knows or speaks Russian. They watch Russian television and follow news provided by Russian media agencies. Millions of Central Asian migrants work in Russia. Russian social networks such as Odnoklassniki and Vkontakte are also quite popular in Central Asia. As in other post-Soviet states, Russian universities such as Moscow State University, MGIMO University, Higher School of Economics are respected in Central Asia, and it is popular to study in Russia too. Moscow also established several universities in Central Asia to promote its soft power. Let's also speak about China. Please, the next slide. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, China established well-developed economic and political relations with Central Asia. China also concluded several successful agreements with the Central Asian states to promote energy cooperation. For example, China's National Petroleum Corporation successfully negotiated exploration of Kazakhstan Uzel oil field. Beijing also concluded an agreement to build an oil pipeline, which increased Kazakh oil exports to China. Another enabler of better energy ties was the construction of the China-Central Asia gas pipeline. In sum, China found alternative energy sources in Central Asia, which it requires to secure its economic growth. Further, China feels transportation of energy supplies from Central Asia is safer when the Middle East, since it flows from pipelines rather than tankers passing from the Gulf waters and Malacca Strait, which the US Navy could blockade in the event of Sino-American confrontation. Next slide, please. Under Xi Jinping's presidency, China pivoted towards Eurasia for the Chinese Silk Road economic belt. It chose to link the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region and Central Asia by announcing the new initiative in Kazakhstan in 2004. Since then, China, Central Asia, Western Asia Economic Corridor has become the main tool for China to focus on the Central Asia, Middle Eastern, and South Caucasian countries. It is also an alternative mainland road to Europe that does not pass through Russian territory. As a result, China actively invests in developing railroads, highways, ports, and other infrastructure facilities in the China Central Asia Western Asia Economic Corridor. Kazakhstan, for example, greatly benefits from the Chinese initiative since it is one of the main transportation hubs of the Central Asia, China Central Asia Western Asia Economic Corridor. Next slide, please. Kazakhstan is also involved in Silk Road Economic Belt's new Eurasian land bridge economic corridor, another link from China to Europe, traversing from Kazakhstan and Russia. Modernizing of its infrastructure thus has made Kazakhstan an important member of Silk Road Economic Belt countries that receive huge Chinese investments. Beijing and Nur-Sultan agreed to Mher Chinese Belt and Road Initiative Kazakhstan Strategic Nurlijol, which means path. It is also the strategic project of Kazakhstan. Apart from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan have also actively participated in the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation in Beijing, either in 2017 or 2019, or both. Next slide, please. All Central Asian countries, except Turkmenistan, have become regional members of the Asian Infrastructure Investments Bank, which China established in 2017 amid resistance from the United States. With the help of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, China aims to secure Belt and Road Initiative financial infusions. This has also helped Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan strengthen their economic cooperation with China. The loans received from IIB first helped in the development of infrastructures in the Central Asian member countries. Another reason that Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan received IIB loans was to mitigate the adverse impact of COVID-19. Next slide, please. The Central Asian population of 74 million is an important market for Chinese goods. China is also a supplier of arms to the region. The Chinese unnamed aerial vehicles have been in great demand in Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and CSTO member Kazakhstan. It is reported that China even has its first military station in Tajikistan, bordering Afghanistan and China. Together, China has strengthened its economic, political, military presence in the region. Its military presence also enabled it to keep watch of the Balkan corridor, from which terrorists can move and transfer armaments to Central Asia and China's Xinjiang. China has also created the Rapid Reaction Forces, Special Operations Forces, and resolving emerging mobile combat force to ensure stability in Xinjiang and Central Asia. China has also deployed soft power tools to strengthen its diplomacy in the region. The Confucius Institutes are extremely popular among the youth because Chinese language improves job opportunities in companies affiliated to China. In addition, Beijing provides thousands of scholarships to Central Asian students. Chinese social networks like WeChat are extremely popular, with Central Asian businessmen using it in transactions with their Chinese counterparts. Next slide, please. Russia and China are interested in stability and security of Central Asia because threats emanating from Afghanistan and the Middle East can adversely affect the Muslim-influenced North Caucasus and Xinjiang. To unite their economic and security efforts in this strategically important region, Russia and China established the Shanghai Cooperation Organization with Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. India and Pakistan obtained membership in 2017. After China initiated the Silk Road Economic Belt in 2014 and marched westward for Central Asia, its economic and political influence has expanded gradually. Rather than create competition and tension, China and Russia have used the Shanghai Cooperation Organization to collaborate and neutralize Western influence. Next slide, please. We will speak about the US and Central Asia. Central Asia come under the US and other Western countries scanner after the 11 September 2001 attacks. Uzbekistan agreed to provide its airbase for US troops to strike Afghanistan. The presence of US troops in Central Asia was perceived as a security threat by Russia and China, which led them to use the Shanghai Cooperation Organization to press for withdrawal of US troops from the region. Russia also pressed its CSTO ally Kyrgyzstan to close US airbase in Manas. This not only shut down the US bases, but also left it with a less effective deterrence mechanism against Russia and China. Washington still uses some part of Central Asia to transport equipment for its troops in Afghanistan via the Narvan distribution network, which comes at a huge annual cost of approximately 500 million USD since 2005. Notably, the C5+1 format was created to address security, economy, and environmental challenges. In 2020, they decided to encourage coordinated regional projects aimed at promoting trade, transport, logistics, and infrastructure ties, developing and intensifying interaction between regional countries in the energy sector, improving scientific and technological cooperation, expanding dialogue on the threats posed by foreign terrorists, promoting the Afghan peace process, and strengthening civil society. Next slide, please. Actually, the US military presence in the region and Afghanistan had helped US Central Asia economic ties. Washington also promoted its soft power by establishing the American University of Central Asia in Bishkek, which aims to develop future leaders for the democratic transformation of Central Asia. Next slide, please. In 2011, the United States initiated the New Silk Road Initiative, which pursues political and economic goals and connects India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Central Asia states. Washington sees several projects as part of this strategy: a railroad between Afghanistan and Pakistan, the Afghan Ring Road, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline, Central Asia Counter-Narcotics Initiative, and the power transmission line between Central Asia and South Asia. If the United States implements the New Silk Road effectively, it could create a united economic platform in the region and serve as a counterforce to Russia, China, and Russia. Washington could then influence Silk Road economic-based China, Central Asia, Western Asia economic corridor, transportation links, which are China's alternative mainland roads to the Middle East and Europe. This would hurt further implementation of CSTO and Eurasian Economic Union activities as well, thus weakening Russia's positions in the region. Additionally, enhanced US economic influence could enable restoration of military bases, which could be used to counter the impact of adversaries. For this reason, Russia and China conduct the Eurasian Economic Union and Belt and Road Initiative, which bound to hurt the US lead New Silk Road. The two countries also agreed that China would be responsible for the economic development of Central Asia. Russia would deal with the measures required to keep the region safe and secure. New Silk Road projects hardly made any progress during most of Trump's presidency, thus failing as a competitor to the China-Russia projects. However, last year there was some signs of New Silk Road getting a new lease of life with the help of US ally Turkey. In the war between Azerbaijan and the Armenians of Karabakh, Turkish troops returned to the South Caucasus after a century, enabling Turkey to become another influential player in Central Asia and open a pathway for it to influence development in China's Muslim-dominated Xinjiang province. Another member of the Eurasian Economic Union, Kyrgyzstan also witnessed chaos because of the political revolution, which helped the United States and Turkey weaken Russian influence in Central Asia. Further, if Turkey strengthens its position in Central Asia, it could influence developments in Xinjiang, thus hurting China and its Silk Road economic belt, which would give the US New Silk Road another chance to succeed, thus upon opening potential economic benefits for Turkey too. Next slide, please. We will speak about the European Union and Central Asia. Brussels sees Central Asia as an alternative connect with China and the rest of Asia, bypassing Russia and tapping into energy sources and trade opportunities. To tap these opportunities, the European Union initiated the Europe-Caucasus Asia Transport Corridor after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Let's speak about the main reasons for the Europeans' interest in the economic growth, stability, and security of Central Asia. The first one, Central Asia provides the European Union access to Asia without passing for Russian territory. Central Asia is currently enabling Chinese and European trains to carry goods between their countries, adding to their economic partnership. In return, Central Asia countries are ranking in additional revenues for transit fees, which is benefiting their infrastructure development projects. The second reason, the EU imports energy sources from Central Asia, thus developing economic relations between the two regions. Kazakhstan supplies about 8% of EU's oil. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the European Investment Bank actively work in the region, providing loans and financial support to Central Asian countries. The EU provided around 7 billion in loans and credits to Central Asian countries. Kazakhstan benefited the most from its relations with the EU with 56 billion investments between 2000 and 2010. To support human rights in the region, the EU promotes its GSP Plus trading scheme. For Kyrgyzstan is the only country in the region that corresponds to the requirements. Central Asia, the first point, that Central Asia plays a vital role in NATO stabilization role in Afghanistan, especially in the movement of troops. Further, the EU is involved in enhancing security of Central Asia by stopping the flow of drugs from Afghanistan. To facilitate this, the European Union and Central Asian countries have set up separate high-level political and security dialogue mechanisms between two sides. And let's also speak about EU's education soft power diplomacy. EU also tries to promote democracy and improve human rights in Central Asian countries with the help of education. It provides scholarship to students from the region, has regional universities for its Erasmus Plus program on implementing their projects for modernizing their universities, increases opportunities for scholars to implement their research with the help of the Horizon, Erasmus Plus, and Marie Skłodowska-Curie programs. Please, the next slide, we will speak about Iran's role. Next slide. Thank you. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Iran tried to cooperate and exert influence on its new Central Asian neighbors. In the 1990s, there were very few players in the region beyond Russia for Iran to contend with. But with many other wealthy and powerful players entering the stage thereafter, Iran had less room for maneuvering. Iran has found ways to remain relevant in the region, but it has lost the political and economic edge because of the sanctions imposed by the United Nations Security Council, United States, and the European Union. On the other hand, Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan have made rapid economic progress, with Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan also registered gains. At present, the following issues limit Iran's political and economic operationality in Central Asia. The first one, regional states are largely secular and discourage religious fundamentalism. They see Iran as a threat because it is a theocratic state with some leaders still speaking about the importance of exporting Islamic revolution. Iran also is under heavy US sanctions, which is not enabling it to invest in the region like the European Union, United States, Russia, and China. Next slide, please. Iran is now trying to improve cooperation mechanisms by joining several joint projects, including the International North-South Transport Corridor, which provides an opportunity to improve transportation links between Russia and India for Central Asia and Iran. The eastern road of the International North-South Transport Corridor links Russian, Iranian, Turkmen, Kazakh, and Uzbek railways and is fully operational and considered to be successful. The role of the Economic Cooperation Organization as a platform for keeping contact at the multilateral level needs emphasized since it is the only regional organization where Iran and all Central Asian countries are members. Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan signed separate memorandum of understanding with China to jointly promote the Belt and Road Initiative, thus encouraging Iran and Central Asian countries' collaboration with Silk Road Economic Base, China, Central Asia, Western Asia Economic Corridor. It is worth mentioning that China also prioritized the role of Iran and Central Asian countries in this corridor to facilitate reaching the Gulf region. The interim agreement leading to the formation of a free trade area between the Eurasian Economic Union and Iran can serve as another platform to improve Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan trade ties. Despite all these openings, Iran cannot compete at present with other great powers in Central Asia. Its best strategy would be to cooperate with Russia and China and ensure that it does not become irrelevant in the region. To remain an influential player, Iran may try to push for full Shanghai Cooperation Organization membership when all the United Nations Security Council sanctions are lifted. The next slide, please. We will speak about Turkey's role in Central Asia. Unlike Iran, Turkey has no common border with Central Asia, but Ankara has great influence in this region. Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan share linguistic and cultural similarities with Turkey. If Iran is trying to unite Shia Muslims of the world, Turkey is rallying Sunni Muslims. Since the majority of Central Asian Muslims are Sunnis, Turkey has an advantage over Iran. Turkey works actively in the region using soft power tools. It promotes Turkic languages, culture, and history. Turkey also provides scholarship to Central Asian students, and it opened universities in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. Ankara initiated the Cooperation Council of Turkic-speaking states to strengthen collaboration with the states, where Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan are full members, and Hungary is an observer. Turkey also created high-level strategic cooperation council with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan, and signed agreement with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan on military technical cooperation. Ankara also obtained dialogue partner status at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization to follow up on the security developments in this region. Thus, while Turkey may not have the financial capabilities of the Western powers and China, and does not have a common border with the region and military bases like Russia, it still exerts considerable influence in the region with the help of soft power. After the last year Karabakh war, Turkish troops will remain for a long time in Azerbaijan, neighbors Central Asia. This will provide an additional opportunity for Turkey to spread its influence in Central Asia and control infrastructure projects that connect Central Asia with South Caucasus. It is also true that for a long time, several Turkish political forces have been promoting the pan-Turkish ideology, which seeks to create one state for all Turkic people. This would include 4 Central Asian states mentioned earlier. However, it is worth mentioning that the political elites of independent Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkmenistan are not interested in this because such a move would compromise their economic and political sovereignty. Next slide, please. We will speak about India and Central Asia. India is interested in Central Asia as an alternative source of energy supply, as an important transport corridor, and to serve as a huge market for Indian goods. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, New Delhi recorded great progress in its relations with Central Asia. India also managed an agreement with Russia to use the airbase in Tajikistan and place its air force units there for participation in the joint fight against terrorism. As a way of reaching out, India proposed the Connect Central Asia strategy and India Central Asia dialogue. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi activated the Connect Central Asia policy and visited all Central Asian countries, signing memorandum of understanding with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkmenistan on strengthening military cooperation. Next slide, please. Due to the tense India-Pakistan ties, the main obstacle for developing economic relations between India and Central Asia is the absence of a direct mainland road connecting them. But the two sides are now working together and getting connected through the international north-south transport corridor. You can see the map, which has already served as an important road connecting the two sides via Iran. It is interesting that India works with Russia for connectivity projects with Central Asia, but cooperates with the United States for building energy infrastructure. This is because Washington could play a positive role in the US promoted New Silk Roads, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India gas pipeline that is under construction, making very slow progress now, to be honest. When complete, this will provide India an energy source via pipeline without passing through multimodal roads. India became a member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in 2017, which provides it with an opportunity to defend its economic, political, and security interests in Central Asia. In turn, the Central Asian countries can use Indian influence to maneuver Russia, Pakistan, and China. In sum, India's influence will nevertheless rise in Central Asia, where it has key strategic interests. Its growing economy is bound to intensify its economic, logistical, and security roles in the region. And next slide, please. Let's also speak about Gulf Cooperation Council countries in Central Asia. The collapse of the Soviet Union opened new opportunities for the GCC countries in the Central Asia, which officially returned to an Islamic identity after 70 years of pursuing atheists. This providing Gulf Cooperation Council countries a window to connect with the region. The second factor contributing to increasing GCC Central Asia relations is their economic complementarity. The capital-rich Gulf Cooperation Council countries are a big draw for Central Asian region that is hungry for infrastructure development. Finally, there is scope for collaboration in the security domain. The United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar have shown a keen interest in collaborating with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Diplomats from the Gulf Cooperation Council countries and their Chinese and Shanghai Cooperation Organization counterparts have been discussing political and security developments in the region, including the possibility of joining the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Next slide, please. Several emerging initiatives in Eurasia could serve as important transportation conduits for connecting the Gulf and Central Asian regions. The most important ones are China's Silk Road economic base, China, Central Asia, Western Asia economic corridor, and China-Pakistan economic corridor. The countries of both regions can increase utilization of the China, Central Asia, Western Asia economic corridors, railway network linked to Iranian ports. The United Arab Emirates has shown keen interest in business opportunities in China, Central Asia, and Western Asia economic corridor. For example, Dubai Ports Vault owns a 51% stake in Gorgos, and the 49% staying in Aktau special economic zones, both in Kazakhstan. In turn, the Abu Dhabi Development Fund provided aid for the reconstruction of part of the Karaganda-Nur Sultan Highway. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is the other economic corridor of the Silk Road economic belt, has the potential to serve as an alternative multimodal route for the Gulf Cooperation Council countries and Central Asian countries. They can be connected from the territories of China, Pakistan, and Arabian Sea. When the rail line from China's Kashgar to Pakistani Gwadar port is complete. The International North-South Transport Corridor also has the potential to connect the Gulf and Central Asia regions, but it has achieved far less progress compared to the Belt and Road Initiative. Only Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Oman are members of the International North-South Transport Corridor. The sanctions on Iran and Russia have added the hardness associated with the development of the project. Oman, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan are also members of the little-known Ashgabat Agreement, which aims to connect the two regions. Iran, India, and Pakistan are also members of this agreement. The United Arab Emirates also initiated the World Logistic Passport, which was launched in last year to boost trade between developing markets, building logistical bridges and improve its role as a trade hub for Asia and Europe. Kazakhstan is the only country from the region to join this initiative thus far. The Gulf Cooperation Council countries have actively invested in Central Asia. Actually, the vast energy resources of both regions and their strategic location connected east, west, north, and south provide ample opportunities for enhanced cooperation in political, economic, transportation, security, and religious spheres, both at the bilateral and multilateral levels. International organizations like Shanghai Cooperation Organization Initiative and projects like the Belt and Road Initiative, International North-South Transport Corridor, Ashgabat Agreement, Forum of Arab Economic Cooperation with Central Asia and the Republic of Azerbaijan are also facilitators for further cooperation. And let's draw our conclusion. Please, the next slide. In a changing world order where the struggle for power between the East and the West is at a decisive fast, Central Asia will be an important theater. Great powers are likely to use this strategically important region to compete and increase their spheres of influence. Thus far, the Sino-Russian tandem has managed to retain its superiority in the region, but this could be changed depending on how the other great powers, the US, EU, Turkey, Iran, India, and Gulf Cooperation Council countries play their cards in the modern great game in Central Asia. Russia is still the leading great power in the region with its well-developed political and military relations. However, the Russian economy is not as robust as it was, and it has limited capabilities to invest in the region in the future. On the other hand, China is investing huge sums of money in Central Asia as part of the Belt and Road Initiative, which is increasing its influence. But it is also true that Russia and China have found common ground on Central Asia. With Russia becoming responsible for security issues and China being the economic powerhouse in the region, together, Moscow and Beijing are working to keep Central Asia out of the West's influence, especially in the political and military domain. But the Western actors are likely to attempt the recalibration of their policies. The Biden administration is likely to reactivate the New Silk Road project proposed during his vice presidency. The European Union will also seek to keep active its multilateral cooperation with Central Asian states by supporting the United States, which will intensify competition with Sino-Russian tandem. It is possible that the West may try to involve Turkey in the region to upset the balance. Washington may try to promote an Ankara-centric security architecture in Central Asia and the neighboring South Caucasus to push Russia out of the modern Great Game. Iran, meanwhile, could support the Sino-Russian camp to keep itself relevant in the region and ensure that the West does not set up military bases that could be used against it as well. In such a scenario, India's role could change the balance of power in Eurasia. While India has good relations with Russia, the United States, Iran, and the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, it has conflictual ties with China and Russia, and Turkey, sorry. Finally, taking into consideration their special relations with the United States and China, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries would prefer to treat carefully without choosing sides. They will find ways to cooperate with all the influential players to secure their economic interests. Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates could capitalize on Iran's declining influence in Central Asia and strengthen their own position. In this complicated scenario, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization assumes greater importance, especially in solving disagreements between among members and keeping Central Asia stable. Please, the next slide. We have also some policy recommendations. The first one, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries and Shanghai Cooperation Organization could establish a dialogue mechanism to encourage economic, political, and security consultations and explore cooperation avenues between two regions. The second recommendation is the United Arab Emirates should lobby for membership of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The third one, the Gulf Cooperation Council could also encourage the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and NATO to set up a consultation mechanism to discuss security issues in Central Asia and Afghanistan. And the fourth, the United Arab Emirates should encourage Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan to apply for the membership of the World Logistic Passport Initiative. This will promote partnership with key Dubai logistics entities, strengthening the Emirates' position as a trade hub connecting Europe and Asia and enhancing trade between developing markets. And the next one, please, the next slide. Thank you. The United Arab Emirates could also consider starting negotiations to link the Eurasian Economic Union with World Logistic Passport. This will strengthen its capabilities in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, Belarus, and Russia, which will also promote multilateralism. And the next recommendation is the Gulf Cooperation Council countries could either collectively or individually climb on board India's international North-South Transport Corridor project, which include Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Armenia, among our members. And the next recommendation, since there are common objectives among Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Iran, China, and the GCC countries on cybersecurity, the United Arab Emirates could take the lead in creating a special platform to discuss the creation of a united policy to discuss potential threats and opportunities. And I need to finish, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Sahakyan, for your insightful and detailed presentation. Let me now request Dr. Meena Singh Roy, Head, West and Central Asia, Tillotoma Foundation, to moderate the discussion on this erudite presentation. Ma'am.
Thank you. It was really a very, very interesting presentation and a very detailed one that you gave. So my compliments for, first of all, linking, South, Central, and West Asia. I think that is one big compliment that I want to give you. there have been debate on Greater Middle East when we talk about Central Asia. So I'm glad that you have taken up that initiative and you have given a very detailed. Your paper is already published. I mean, I have few questions, but I guess I will come on that later. I would request Professor Tolipov, who's the expert, who even I have been learning a lot from his writings and whatever he has been writing on the regionalism and how Central Asia has evolved. And I think the most important aspect here is you covered various dimensions of the role that the major players and the regional actors have played and can for play in future, and what are the limits and what are the opportunities in that sense. But I think the Central Asians, and how they look at it probably would be very, very important aspect as to how Central Asia reacts to it. And that is where I guess I would request Professor Tolipov, who's written a lot on the regional integration dynamics, the regionalism and the major power play that has been unfolding. And there are many changes which are happening, I would say, not only in Eurasian region, but also, in the West Asian region, the Middle East, as we, is known in the West. And let's not forget the Southern Asia, including Afghanistan, which has a major security implications. And then the geopolitics of it, the geography, the balance of power, and many other aspects, the geography, which plays an extremely important role. So I would request, Professor Tolipov to bring in the Central Asian perspective and how Central Asia looks at all this. I think that is a very, very important aspect. And over to you, Professor Tolipov. Your comments have always been extremely, nuanced, and at the same time very, very new in terms of educating the students. Even I have learned a lot from you. So I would request you to kindly deliver, your views on the subject, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mina, for kind words about my writings, my contribution to the scholarship of Central Asia.
I mean it, Professor Tolipov. I'm very professional.
Okay, good. Yes, and also I have read many of your works also, and find them also quite strong, very professional. And by the way, if I compare scholarship on Central Asia made in India, for instance, or in the United States or Russia, and compare them, I think Indian school of thinking, especially strategic geopolitical thinking, is probably one of the strongest and thorough in the world, especially when it comes to Afghanistan studies, things like that. So yeah, I'm also very much impressed by Indian works, Indian contribution to Central Asian studies. Okay, first of all, yes, the presentation which we heard was very interesting, and I'm glad that more and more new scholars in the world are interested in Central Asia, in our region, and try to understand the processes unfolding in the region, and especially when it comes to such a sensitive, delicate topic as geopolitics. Well, yes, I'm glad that this work was done and published. It's okay. At the same time, as a scholar, especially from the region, I would like to comment on some points and maybe ask some questions. First of all, maybe I should, draw your attention, colleagues, to the very meaning of geopolitics, and what is the difference between the old geopolitics, which took place a century ago in this region in Central Asia, and the new one, because it is important for us to make such a, you know, uh, difference between old and new geopolitics. And I would like to ask you to uh, explain how you understand the meaning or the content and the significance of new geopolitics, because you yourself titled your work "The New Geopolitical Game." This first, first time when such a word combination, "great game," appeared in our political language and in the literature, it was long ago, and it was about the great game between Tsarist Russia on one hand, on one side, and British Empire on the other side. And they played this game, great game, against each other, and they played off the cards of Afghanistan and Turkestan against each other, and they stopped each other in their expansionist movement of Russia from north to the south, is expansion of Great Britain from south to the north, and they first turned Afghanistan into the buffer zone. So, and they agreed to stop each other, and Central Asia became the sphere of influence of Russia, and India and Afghanistan was the part of British sphere of dominance. So this is what the all the old great game all about. How about the new great game? The first great game was about controlling the territory. If we use the geopolitical language, it was all about the controlling, even direct controlling of the territory of Turkestan, of India, of Afghanistan. Today, it is hardly correct to say that geopolitics or new great game is about controlling the territory, right, of Central Asia. But then the question arises, natural question, what we mean by great game, by geopolitics regarding Central Asia. Do great powers such as China, Russia, or United States, or Turkey, or India, or whoever, or Iran, pursue the policy of controlling Central Asia, or do they have some other purposes? I mean, what is great game all about? Okay, what is the principal difference between U.S. geopolitics in Central Asia, Russian geopolitics in Central Asia, and Chinese geopolitics in Central Asia? Take just this simple geopolitical triangle composed by U.S., Russia, and China. Forget others. Is there the principal difference to say, well, there is a competition, there is a struggle between these three great powers over Central Asia? This is the first comment. Second, maybe about the issue which Mina yourself you raised about the role of Central Asian countries themselves. This speech which we heard today was about geopolitics of great powers or mid-ranking powers, and according to such approach, geopolitics looks like the ambitious actions or endeavors of great powers in the region of Central Asia, and says nothing about Central Asian countries' own role in this geopolitics. By the way, during the old great game time, Central Asian area was an object of great game. Today, we can surely assert that Central Asians now can play the game themselves, and they are the subjects, the actors of a great game. And do you see such a independent role of Central Asian states, be them in the form of maneuvering or inclination towards some great powers? For instance, some Central Asian states maybe are inclined toward China, others towards the United States, still others to Russia, and so on. So how Central Asians themselves play the game? This is the second comment. Well, and let me actually, these are not comments, but questions. And two other remarks in the form of real critical comments. SCO-NATO. You proposed cooperation, military security cooperation between NATO and SCO. I would disagree with such an approach. I do not share this vision because, first, SCO members from the beginning asserted that this is not a military organization, military bloc. They do not have such an agenda of providing security to Central Asia or to the members of this organization. They have nothing in their agenda regarding security umbrella issues. NATO does have, really. It's a military political bloc. So I think if even there is such any field of cooperation between NATO and other similar organizations, it could be probably between NATO and CSTO, Collective Security Treaty Organization of the Eurasian space, but not the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So I seriously doubt that NATO can establish any cooperation with the SCO in the field of security. And finally, you mentioned Eurasian Economic Union. Yes, it's a very important topic today. Many countries are interested. You also mentioned that Arab Emirates can apply for the membership in the Eurasian Economic Union. But let me tell you, as a scholar who also deeply studies the phenomenon of Eurasian Economic Union, that EAEU is less an economic organization than geopolitical. Again, this is a geopolitical invention of Mr. Putin to establish or to preserve or to maintain its geopolitical control of the former Soviet space by setting up such a network of countries around Russia. Imagine in the former Soviet Union, there were 15 republics, right? 15 Soviet republics, and only 4 of them, besides Russia, are the members of the EAEU. Only 4, no more. This fact itself tells us about some deficiencies, unattractiveness, let's say, non-attractiveness of the EAEU. But if you deepen into this question about the meaning of the EAEU, you will see that even some prominent Kazakh scholars, experts from Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan already expressed their disappointment with the EAEU. They already raised the question about withdrawal from the EAEU. It's quite contrasting and surprising that some countries are disappointed and would like to go out of the EAEU, but others would like to enter the EAEU. But those others are far remoter countries, like you mentioned, Arab Emirates or even Cuba. In the last summit of the EAEU, the president of Cuba participated. So this is a very complicated issue, to my mind, full of geopolitics. It's not free from geopolitics. I mean, the EAEU, it's economically very weak and serves mostly the interests of Russia in terms of economics. If you take only economic field, you will see that only Russia benefits from EAEU. Others see the membership as not beneficial for them. They are losing economically from this membership. That's it. Maybe I was speaking so long. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Tolipov. And as expected, you did bring in the Central Asian point of view, which I felt that was the only missing link in your paper. While you talk about, you see, here your paper is already published. So as far as I am concerned, I can only, request you to probably come up with the part 2 of it, the part 2 of your paper that you've written, wherein you can bring in the, you could do various interviews with the Central Asian experts and see how they are reacting to this new geopolitical game that we talked about. Now, for me, the geopolitics is in every aspect today that we are talking about, whether we are talking about big infrastructure projects. I think you probably feel that the Belt and the Road Initiative, and probably which is a combination of two, the maritime dimension and the Silk Route economic belt. And for me, the Silk Route economic belt probably has achieved more as compared to the maritime dimension of it. And for me, even the Belt and the Road Initiative is not free from geopolitics. And maybe I would, request you if you have some thoughts to share on how do you actually see the potential of China, particularly in the context of the increasing US China, problems and the tensions. And if we see today, the US focus is definitely shifting towards the Pacific, and the Indo Pacific, Asia Pacific. That is where I guess the US policies are going to be focused on in future. And this aspect is definitely going to have an impact on the rest of the areas that we've talked about. There is a perception that US is going to kind of withdraw. This withdrawal syndrome of the US policies is something which has generated a lot of debate at present. And I don't think any region is going to be, not affected by this perception. To what extent, the US would be leaving, the region for the Chinese to expand their influence. That is one. The second issue where I would probably want you to
Maybe it will be better if I answer all questions which you have raised, and after you add some questions, because I will not remember.
All right. So I give the floor to you, and I'll come back later on the Shanghai Cooperation
Organization. It will be my pleasure to have new questions and comments. At first, I want to thank you, both of you. It is my pleasure to know you, such outstanding scholars, and I will be very happy to read your publications. I will ask to send me your publications that I read it and study from you. And speaking about Central Asian scholars, if you pay attention on my paper, working paper, I don't know, do you have it or not? You will find their interview with Central Asian scholars and even with Turkish scholars. So I made interviews and I have asked Central Asian scholars, please keep it in your mind. And the next moment, I want to answer Professors Talibov's questions. Thank you for your very interesting questions. And you were asking about, you were asking to make some comprehensive analysis between old great game and modern great game, which I have mentioned. And you were asking about what is about this great game now. I think that if in old times it was about territories, today it is about influence on infrastructure and sources. So these great powers are struggling to take under their control infrastructure, which is passing through Central Asia, and take under control sources, energy sources, which has this very important region. It is my answer to your question. And of course, you are right. Central Asian states are also now making some progress. For instance, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan are going to be, I think so, in the near future, they will stand middle powers or something like a middle powers. And they also have their own agenda and they will try to play their own game. So in the future, we will see that Central Asian states are rising their influence. And it is true, it will be very hard to confront Russia, China, or the US in the region. but they will try to find common interest with these great powers and get some benefit. It is my understanding. And please, if it is possible, to switch on my PowerPoint presentation, the last slide. Is it possible? Because my answer is there. It is possible to switch on my PowerPoint presentation, last slide. Last slide. Do you hear me? Okay, thank you. Last one, please. Last one. Thank you. Please go back one slide. Please go back one slide. So Professor Talibov was arguing that I was speaking about cooperation between Shanghai Cooperation Organization and NATO, but I haven't said something like this. Please pay attention what I have said. I said that the Gulf Cooperation Council countries could also encourage the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and NATO to set up a consultation mechanism to discuss security issues in Central Asia and Afghanistan. It is totally different. It is totally different. So it is my idea. Please, please pay attention on my idea. So, and also about Arab Emirates. Actually, United Arab Emirates never said that it is trying to stand the member of Eurasian Economic Union. I have found in the page of Shanghai Cooperation Organization that actually ambassador asked Mr. Norov, who is also from your country, from Uzbekistan, that they want, they are interested to know how one country can stand a member. It is about it. And about the Eurasian Economic Union, I am not sure that all countries are not so happy with economic benefit. For instance, I can speak about Armenia, and Armenia have got some benefit from the Eurasian Economic Union. And as I see, Uzbekistan also has some interest to stand member. It is not a member yet, but it has got observer status, and it is now it is growing its relation with organization. It means that it is interested, and if we check facts with trade, we will see that there are some good dynamic for Uzbekistan as well. So it is very hard to say that the Russian Economic Union is about nothing. And our colleague from India has mentioned about the US pivot towards Asia Pacific. You are totally right. Several years ago, during the Obama administration, they have mentioned about pivot towards Asia Pacific. Why? Because as we see, the political and economic center of world is shifting from the Europe towards Indo-Asia Pacific, because we have two rising powers there. I mean China and India, which are totally changing world economic order, because their economy is rising very fast. So all countries are interested to be there, and the US also understand that it must be there for getting its benefit, and of course for deterring China. And I will wait for new questions and comments. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments and clarifications about the consultative mechanism that you have proposed through the GCC countries. But I mean, I'm not saying that the GCC countries themselves, they don't have, there are undercurrents. And I think that got reflected in the during the Qatar crisis and how it worked out. So what I feel within the GCC, I think UAE is probably the country which is much more acceptable player when we talk about the economic engagements, when we talk about the ideological dimension of the problems. So UAE has been able to project itself as a role model, to say so. Uh, but when you're saying the GCC, I don't know if you are referring to the GCC as such or you are referring to UAE in particular. So that is where, and I think the regional cooperation as such, it would be, I mean, an individual country which can play a role when can suggest certain things, but I really don't know if the GCC as a united force can probably do it. I mean, these are my apprehension as a researcher. I'm saying it. You also referred to one point where you said the SEO has, really, been able to neutralize the Western influence. To what extent you are really convinced with it? I don't know if it has been able to neutralize the Western influence. Uh, you know, the regional order, if you see the events which are unfolding in and around in the region and beyond, and to what extent the US and the West have seriously been interested in Central Asia. Was that the region where they have the economic interest, or they are looking at containing one power from dominating the Central Asia as such? So I really don't know if they have been able to completely neutralize. I do feel that if you look, you showed the trade figures, the EU is still the major trading partner of Central Asia in terms of the data that you've shown. So I don't know, I would like to know your views on that. And secondly, what do you see the future of China-Russia cooperation in Central Asia? And how do you visualize that in future? What shape will it take? Maybe so long as the US continues to have problems with Russia and China, and for now. And let me say, the Central Asian countries are today very, very independent. There are major changes happening in Central Asia, particularly after the new president took over in Uzbekistan. You see the way they have handled their internal issues and the intra-regional dialogues, the border issues. So I think we see the new Central Asia, unfolding in today's context, and with a lot of power and a lot of energy to bring in the new elements, whether they are economic reforms. I don't think suddenly everything is going to change, but there is a new dynamics which is unfolding in the region, and which is all very positive. The only negative dimension that I see is the uncertainty in Afghanistan and how the game would be played in Afghanistan, which will have a spillover effect on the security of Central Asia. Barring that, within Central Asia, if we see, despite, some issues, I think they have been, I mean, that's the uniqueness I see in the smaller states of Central Asia, that they've been able to maintain, that balance. And also, the newer part of the great game is that, which Professor Tolipov also noted, that the Central Asians are playing the game today. And I think one example which I saw while being in Uzbekistan is that project of the high-speed train. And that is where I think very smartly they could tell the Chinese that, fine, if you get the project of connecting Tashkent, with the longest route, which they build it to Fargana Valley. And that is where I think they bargain that you are going to train my people, my managers will be trained. And the other project was given to the Spanish, the European company. So I think this is the kind of balance they can negotiate and see today. This would not have happened in past. So I think I'm going to stop here. And as far as India, I think, is concerned, India has India, Japan, and Korea. I think I put three of them in one basket. When we talk about the role that they can play in Central Asia, there's much more which is expected from India. And I think India needs to do much more than what it is doing. With that, I would also say that, India has always been interested in terms of what the Central Asians want. Whether we are talking about capacity building, whether we are talking about the other issues, they could have played a greater role. As far as I, as a researcher, I can say that. I think I'll stop there, but I would still say it lot would depend on how the Central Asians react to these forces which are pulling, being pulled in the different direction. How far the China-Russia cooperation will continue, and how acceptable, the Chinese initiatives. I think China is a compulsion. China is an opportunity for everybody today. But it is also a challenge. And those are being reflected in many projects that we have seen have gone in the negative light. So I'll stop here and I'll give opportunity you to say something that you would want to.
Thank you very much. I have enjoyed your very interesting comment on this topic. So thank you very much. Actually, you are right. As I have mentioned, China and Russia trying to use Shanghai Cooperation Organization for solving security and economic problems in Central Asia, and they are trying together to neutralize the role of the US, the West, in Central Asia. But they are trying. It is not fact that they succeeded. The other fact that they chose cooperation over competition. Because when China started its Belt and Road Initiative, everyone was waiting. Russia and China will have a confrontation in Central Asia, but they would find ways for conjunction of Eurasian Economic Union and Belt and Road Initiative, and we see some sort of cooperation between Russia and China in Central Asia. But of course, the US is also trying to activate its New Silk Road initiative, its own initiative, and create this great platform which will be from Central Asian states, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and will try to get its floor in Central Asia, because if it gets this Central Asia, the US will be able to deter Russia and China. It will be able to return its air base to Central Asia, and it will be able to press China, because it can already, as I have mentioned, China, Central Asia, Western Asia economic corridor is going for Central Asia. So actually, if the US could have some floor in Central Asia, it can also close the way of China to Europe from Central Asia.
It has been a very interesting debate, and I'm sure we will have the second paper written by you to discuss here. And maybe before you publish it, or you can publish it for the Tillotoma Foundation, and that would be, a real contribution of a good scholar for the foundation. And thank you, Professor Tolipov, for being. I know you have to leave in 10 to 15 minutes. And once again, it was pleasure, being part of this discussion and, getting back into the debate on Central Asia, which is very, very close to my heart also when we talk about the region as such. And you are instrumental, Mher, for doing it. So thank you so much for the presentation that you made and the debate that has been generated thereafter. I thank all of you for your participation, and I'm sure in future we will have many more such discussions. Thank you. And
Thank you too.
stay
Thank you
safe
too.
and stay healthy.
Yeah,
Wishing you
too.
a good health.
All the best. All the best to you too. Okay, bye bye.
Thank you very much for your very interesting comments, questions, and criticisms. Thank you very much.
No, we
Let me
don't criticize. It is only the critique of the paper. I think there is a difference. There is no criticism.
It is great. It is great to have some criticism. Without it, it is not interesting.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Let me thank all the esteemed panelists for their participation in this event. It was a very interesting discussion, especially thanks to Dr. Mher Sahakyan for his presentation. And I also thank all the viewers. Thank you very much.